This is Pro Series Off Topic.
Welcome back to Pro Series Off Topic. This is episode 77. Hope you enjoyed this past week's Pro Series podcast. It was episode 157. If you need to go back and listen to it, it was with Bjarni Herrera. He is from Norway. The episode is titled Global Perspectives on Sustainable Finance with Bjarni Herrera. We talk about financing. He gives advice on being an entrepreneur. It's honestly a great episode, so go check that one out. Next week we'll have another one going through, but this week on Off Topic I have a couple things to talk about. This is episode 77. My first thing I want to talk about, if you remember, I can't even remember, like probably 3 years ago, I had Greg Smith and his wife Tori Smith. Greg is a producer on HGTV, contractor on HGTV. He's currently part of Honest Renovations with Jessica Alba and Lizzie Maddith on Roku channel, and he tagged me in a post about Open Concept. Tagged me, a few other people, Adrian Ramsey, who's just on the podcast and you might know many times, but Greg Smith was also on my podcast twice. He's going to be on in a couple weeks. A thing with my podcast, when I record it, like this past week's, for example, Bjarni Herrera, that was recorded back in July, I believe. I bulk record, so meaning I always have between like 5 to 10 episodes just waiting to release, just because I'm big on consistency. I never know what's going to happen. You know, life does happen. You know, I have a full-time job, so you always need that in your back pocket. So I'm always recording episodes, but they're always like, I'm booked all the way until, like, I have enough episodes to come out until December, I believe. But I mean, I'm recording all October and November, and so I'll have enough episodes to go until like February or something like that. And if you are listening and you want a podcast, or you have a podcast and you struggle with that, definitely pre-scheduling out that far is a huge benefit for yourself to stay consistent, because I gave myself that goal of posting every week, and I have always posted every week, and that's how I stay on my game to do it. It's the easiest way to do it. I know some people record an episode a week and release that episode that week. It's great. I mean, off topic, I do that. I do that every weekend, but I don't know how people do it. I mean, it has to be your full-time job. When it's not your full-time job and it's a hobby and you still want to stay consistent and grow, this is the best way I have found. There might be something else out there. But getting back to it. So Greg Smith kind of did this collaboration on social media between us all and wanted our opinions on Open Concept. I think there's so many people out there. They see it on TV. Open Concept is everywhere. You want that Open Concept feel. But the one thing I want you to think about is the noise. I grew up in a house that had Open Concept, and it does get loud. It's awesome being able to cook and being able to see your kids in the family room playing and keeping an eye on them. But there's ways to do that without being a complete Open Concept. So please take into account noise when it comes to designing your home and wanting to break down these walls to make it Open Concept. There's definitely ways around that to still get your wants of wanting to be able to check on your kids or check on the front door or whatever you want to do. Open Concept is something that, you know, TV, magazines really push on. And I think until you have it, you don't really actually know the disadvantages of it. So my biggest pitfall with Open Concept is the noise of it all, especially when you have like a TV in your family room and maybe you have a TV in your kitchen or living room. It gets so loud in there. Just take that into consideration. Noise is a huge disadvantage when it comes to Open Concept. So thank you, Greg, for posting that and kind of tagging me on this social media. It almost reminds me of the Ice Bucket Challenge. So it's pretty cool that you're doing this. And I loved Adrian's story that he posted on Saturday or Friday night. So keep it going. Let's get back to my next topic is I love hosting podcasts, but another thing that I absolutely love is being a guest on a podcast. And I had the honor a few weeks ago, or maybe it's a month ago at this point, I can't even remember. I was a guest on the Above Average podcast. You might remember one of the hosts being on my podcast early August. I believe I released the episode, and that's with Will Marshall. He is one of the co-hosts. The other co-host is Ethan Merritt, which I'm working on him being on my podcast as well, because he has an interesting story too. But I had the honor to sit down with both of them to be on the Above Average podcast. We kind of talk about my journey in podcasting, how I got it, some of the stories that I have about guests, some curveballs that I have been thrown at during the recording process of some of my podcasts. It's just so much fun to be able to be a guest on a podcast and kind of go in there with no notes, no questions to ask. It was a great podcast to be on, because it was just a general, just like a casual conversation between the two of them. And I definitely want to go back on. Great dude. So go check that out and like, subscribe, review the Above Average podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a great podcast. They have a lot of great entrepreneurs and, just people that are really breaking down barriers and just being above average. Great podcast. Go check that one out. Let's get into country music this week. A lot went on, a lot of listening on Friday. People, if you don't know, I literally do the first thing I wake up in the morning on Fridays is I download literally as much of the country music that I want to listen to. There's some music that I don't, download or want to give a listen to because I just have no desire to. Some sneak in there, which is one of them that will be coming in this list. But first up, I want to go with the album. Keith Urban came out with an album called High. It is, so many of these artists in country music are kind of going back to the original country roots with albums like, Morgan Wallen did it with a little bit of his songs. Post Malone has done it. Recently, Miranda Lambert has done it. But Keith Urban kind of is going away from that and still is giving that cool electric. It's probably the best way to describe Keith Urban's type of music, electric country. Sounds very different from everybody else, which is not a bad thing. It's a great album altogether. His current single, Messed Up Is Me, good, but it's slow. That's not the song that I would have picked in the first lead single of the album. I would definitely have picked Straight Line. He has a collaboration on the album with Lainey Wilson, which would have also been a great single. It's called Go Home With You. Another song off the album that I love is Chuck Taylor's and Blue Sky. But overall, just a great album. It's not my favorite Keith Urban album. I think we've talked on the past, like my favorites of his, but it is an album to definitely go listen to. But let's get into the next songs. Next up, Elle King with High Road is her next single. Honestly, not a fan. Maybe it will grow on me, but there were so many more songs off of her last album that could have been singles and could have been big songs for her career. But I think what she went through last year with that Dolly tribute at the Grand Ole Opry and when she was intoxicated, and the New Year's Eve show that she was kind of intoxicated, and she was just trying to fix herself and be a better person. And I think she's done that, but so that's probably why she didn't release even more songs off of that album. But yeah, it's definitely worth listening to. I think Elle King, her move to country music was a great move. I think even before when she was in pop music, she had a lot of that sound already. So great move. A big fan. Next up, this is not considered a country song. But he was originally a country artist. His name's Hunter Hayes. You probably remember him from Wanted or Storm Warning from the past, or I Want Crazy. And he kind of segued into pop music, which we talked about on this podcast before. He came out with another song called In a Song, Lost and Found, which in my opinion could be country. I don't know why there's some of these artists that have struggled in country music for so long are moving into a pop world, like Daniel Bradbury and Hunter Hayes. Maybe they just feel like there's a lot more opportunity in the pop world, but he was already a huge artist. He has multiple number one songs, so I don't know why he left or kind of moved into the pop world after his hiatus for so long. Yeah. Next up, Noah Thompson, the winner of American Idol a few years ago, came out with Demons in My Whiskey. Great song. I love Noah's voice. He has that raspy voice, but in a different way. It's not like that Morgan Wallen type of sound, but definitely worth checking out. This song was going to be my number one song of the week. You'll hear what my actual number one song of the week, but it's Kip Moore, came out with a new single called Live Here to Work. It's actually a really funny song, and it's a good song, and you'll know why once you listen to it. But it's a serious song too, but it's just about work, and you're not living here to work. You're living here to be, have a life, live life. But it's a good song. Next up, Raina Roberts. I haven't listened to this whole thing yet, this whole album, but it's called The Lost Files. I'm a huge fan of her voice. I haven't been really gravitated to any of her music just because I don't know if she's not with the right writers or what, or producers. Just the songs itself aren't there for me. But I think she has one of the best voices in these newcomers of country music. She's going to be a massive artist. Next up, Zach Brown Band came out with an EP called No Wake Zones with their current single Tied Up. But honestly, it's a non-skip EP. There's 5 songs: Tied Up, My Kind of Medicine, 2 Blue Chairs, and You, I Lost It. And then this is a Jimmy Buffett tribute song, which features Mac McAnally with Pirates and Parrots. Go check that out. It is definitely a great feel-good song about missing Jimmy Buffett and kind of living up to his legacy and what he left everybody in the music world. And his fan base is incredible. But definitely worth listening to. Next up, Riley Green came out with his Apple Music Nashville Sessions, which I love this whole Apple Music Nashville Sessions. If you're a Spotify listener and country fan, you are truly missing out on these because they're just acoustic versions of their songs and they do a cover. This one with Riley Green, he came out with 3. It's Cowboy and Me, Jesus Saves, and Worst Way. I just love hearing acoustic country music. I just think that's the ultimate, that's great driving music. Take some of the production out of it and just bring a guitar and it just sounds so good. But my song of the week is from Zoe Wetzel. I know I've talked about him past with a couple of the other songs with High Road he has, but Casamigos is his new single that he released, and it is a great song. Go check that one out. I think his voice is perfect for country music right now, and I can't wait for even more of his music to come out because I'm becoming such a huge fan of his. That's all we have for the new music. This song, it's not new. It came out in 2023, but I've noticed it is in the top 10 on iTunes, and it's from an artist called Max McNown. Don't know a lot about him, but this song is number 7, I believe, on iTunes, called A Lot More Free. He has a great voice. I can't wait to dive more into his music, but he actually did come out with a album this week, actually. It's called Willfully Blind. Again, that is Mac McNown. Best way to describe his voice is probably like a Zoe Wetzel or Noah Kahan kind of mixed together. It's kind of like that broken down acoustic country music that goes back to the roots of what country music was. Great artist. I can't wait to listen to more of his songs. He just has a really cool voice. Now let's get into the country music media base chart. Number 5, Kane Brown and Marshmello with Miles on It. Number 4, Luke Bryan with Love You, Miss You, Mean It. Number 3, Post Malone and Blake Shelton with Pour Me a Drink. Number 2, Luke Combs with Ain't No Love in Oklahoma. And the number 1 song this week is Dustin Lynch and Jelly Roll with Chevrolet. great week of country music. That is all we have this week. We have another Pro Series coming out next week. Definitely go and listen to the Above Average podcast with my episode. It's episode 19. It just came out this morning. Go check that out. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk next week.